I guess bullying Pfizer wasn't enough for him. If BlackRock takes its own life, I think O'Keefe should be charged with murder. Okay. So he did it. Breaking BlackRock recruiter who decides people's fate says war is good for business while spilling info on asset giant. So this is the new breaking thing. And just so you know who BlackRock is, BlackRock are those people, the equity firm that runs the world. They have the controlling interest shares in every company in the world. They're raping the Amazon. They're doing all that stuff. And they're the ones pushing war. And now they're the ones meeting with Zelensky because they're going to be the ones rebuilding Ukraine. It's a great business opportunity. That's who BlackRock is, right? By the way, in Think We Trust, BlackRock is now the fourth branch of government. Okay, that's from Bloomberg Business Week. When the Fed looked for bond buying help in so there you go. So they got more money than God. Most countries, they have a lot of. Right when BlackRock is trying to do good for the world, James O'Keefe goes and violates their privacy. For shame. Why not go after someone powerful, like, that guy with the Viking horns on January 6th? And by the way, what is this conspiracy nonsense? In Think We Trust, BlackRock is now the fourth branch of government? Is this Alex Jones kind of garbage? Oh, wait a minute. That's Bloomberg. And this article is a celebration. They're not upset. Hey, if they openly say this in Bloomberg, why did James O'Keefe have to go undercover? You don't suppose Americans are so utterly beaten and propagandized on a daily basis that most can't see the thing right in front of their goddamn faces, do you? Well, he did. He went undercover anyway. And breaking BlackRock, here it is. BlackRock recruiter said it was who decides people's fate, says war is good for business. Wow. War is good for business since when? Here we go. By the way, so this, I guess, this is the guy. So they got another one of these. So I'm sure they got some pretty girl who met this guy in a dating app. This is so amazing that they do this. So here we go. Let's watch it.
Let me tell you, it's not through who's the president. Let me tell you, it's not through who's the president. It's who's controlling the war. So it's
and who's that?
The hedge funds, BlackRock, the banks.
So he says it's not going through the president, it's going through the people. So the people who control the president's bank account, that's what he's saying. That's who's really running things. And she says, who's that? He says the hedge funds, BlackRock, the banks. These guys run the world. So now you know, and they run both political parties. That's why there's almost no difference between them at all. They're both for the war in Ukraine. They're both for the war in Syria. They're both for the war in Libya. They're both for the war in Afghanistan. They're both for the war with Russia. They're both for the war with China. They're both for the Iraq war. So those are the big things. They're both for denying you health care. They're both for denying you minimum wage. They're both for denying you free college. They're both for denying everything. They're both against fixing the bridges. They're both against fixing homelessness. They're both for giving $5 trillion in the largest upward transfer of wealth in human history. They're both for authoritarian lockdowns that crushed your businesses and kept you from going to work and didn't give you any money, but they gave it to your business owners. Wow. So that's what he's saying there. And that's what a service. Who would have ever thunk James O'Keefe would be doing, and Tucker Carlson. These are the two guys that are doing the best reporting around. Exposing all the things, the biggest, the most powerful. First he went after Pfizer, now he's going after BlackRock. So let's watch a little more of this, shall we? Okay.
These guys want campaign financing. Yep, you can buy your candidates.
So,
All of these financial institutions, they buy politicians. You own a little bit of everything, and that little bit of everything gives you so much money on a yearly basis that you can take this big ton of money, and then you can start to buy people. Obviously, we have the system in place. First, there's the senators, and these guys are cheap. You got 10 grand, you can buy a senator.
You could buy a senator for 10 grand? We should do a GoFundMe. Right? Why don't we do a GoFundMe? Well, all we need is like maybe 50 senators. So that's 10 grand each. That's 10 times. What I don't know. Is that 500 grand? So we do good $500,000. We can run the Senate. No, I say we fight fire with fire. You can't beat them. Join them. Beat them at their own game. 10 grand. You can get a senator. Come on. Okay.
It doesn't matter who wins.
You're so right.
I love that he says this. He says it doesn't matter who wins, and it doesn't matter who wins. We've covered this story a million times. I'll tell you who's won every election since 1980. It's Wall Street, the military-industrial complex, Big Pharma, and what else do you need to know? And the oil companies.
My pocket list, I can give you 500K right now, no questions asked.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do what needs to be done. I'd be like, yeah, of course.
And
why not?
does like everybody do that? Does BlackRock do that?
Everyone does that. Everyone does that. So if this is how a relatively low-level employee at BlackRock talks, imagine how the management talks. So this is just some guy, some recruiter at BlackRock. He knows the game. So everybody there knows the game. They know the game is corrupting governments to do your bidding. This is called capitalism. Well, this is what would be called unbridled capitalism because there are no limits anymore. Imagine what but you don't know who the CEO of BlackRock is, right? You don't know who the people that's by design. That's by design. Okay, here we go.
Do you have any thoughts on the Ukraine-Russia war?
Ukraine is good for business. You know, right? We don't want the conflict to end.
What?
Ukraine war is good for business, and they don't want the conflict to end. Try telling this to regular people at dinner.
Oh.
Try telling this to 3 comedians from Boston at dinner. They'll say, no, Jimmy, I read the Jeff Bezos Washington Post, and I read the billionaire-owned New York Times, and I listened to the MSNBC news, and they say that Putin's a thug and a bad guy, and that he can uninvade Ukraine if he wanted. Here it is. These are the people who actually run it. So when you go, who's making the decisions? It's not Joe Biden, and you know it's not Kamala Harris. It's these people. This is the donor class. This is BlackRock. Okay, here we go.
We don't want the conflict to end as a country. The longer this goes on, the weaker Russia is. I'll give an example. Russia blows up Ukraine's grain silos. Price of wheat's gonna go mad up. So what are you gonna do if you're a trading firm? The moment that news hits, within a millisecond, you're gonna pump trades into whoever the wheat suppliers are, into their stocks. Within an hour or two, that stock goes up, and then you sell, and you just made, I don't know, however many mil.
Why would a news channel?
So that's weird. He didn't say the reason why BlackRock supports the Ukraine war is because Putin's a madman. He said it's because of the wheat stock thing. Huh. I thought it was because Putin was a thug and a gangster. The thug and the gangster is Joe Biden and NATO and the United States and the military-industrial complex. That's who the thug is. That's who the thug is. And when someone says that, that's propaganda. Because we are the world's terrorists, not Russia, not Putin, not China, the United States and our military-industrial complex. And we're ending the way every empire ends. Calling Putin a thug justifies the military-industrial complex. Playing right into their hands. And there it is. Because why would it? Then she asks him, why would a news channel promote a side in a war?
Promote a side in war.
Because it's also good for business too. I mean, what's news? News, right? What does news feed on? They feed on strategy. They feed on up events. That's what people like to watch. So when it happens, it's good business. More viewers. When nothing's happening, watches news. I don't watch news.
So they're all pushing like the same talking point. Like you generally, when you look at news, like
it's propaganda. Ukrainian economy is tied very largely to the wheat market, global wheat market. This is fantastic if you're trading. Volatility creates opportunity to make profit. War is real good for business. It's exciting when goes wrong, right?
I think that's called the banality of evil. Look, he's smiling. It looks like a nice guy. He's a businessman. He wears a tie to work. Wears a collared shirt. Got super white veneers. Like, there's one more clip of this. This is tough to take, isn't it?
Yeah.
based on everything we know now, when they say to sell, does that mean we should buy?
And so, yeah. It's like, Jim Cramer? If you do exactly the opposite of what he's advising, you actually make money.
Huh?
Yeah. It's like, it's called the inverse Cramer.
I don't know why they include. That's funny.
They don't want to be in the news. They don't want people to talk about them. They don't want to be anywhere on the radar.
Why not?
Yeah, like the people who actually run the world. Like, except Klaus Schwab can't stay out of front of a camera, and Bill Gates the same thing. But the guys at BlackRock, they don't want anybody to know who they are. And she says, why not?
I don't know, but I suspect it's probably because it's easier to do things when people aren't thinking about it.
Yes, it is. So there you go. That's who's really running the world. That's who controls the president, no matter who's president. And Donald Trump was a little harder to control for them. And so that's why they do Russiagate. That's why they do other. He campaigned and he got elected on a promise of ending the Middle East wars. We have a permanent war economy, and these guys make hundreds and hundreds and trillions of dollars every year off this. That you can't believe you can't believe the amount of money they make. They make more money than Big Pharma. These guys. So they have a pandemic every year. The military-industrial complex. There's never not. So that's who's really running it, and I hope it. And tip of the hat to James O'Keefe's media, O'Keefe Media Group, OMG. Okay, great. Isn't it funny? Isn't it funny that the only two people out there? Well, I wouldn't say the only two people, but I'm saying the two people who were considered, right wing and in the tank for the establishment are pushing back against the establishment. Is that something? Like James O'Keefe started out trying to undermine social services, doing exposés to show that social services were all messed up and we should get rid of them for poor people. And now he's going after the powerful. He's really, this is what journalists are supposed to be doing. They're not doing it. And so James O'Keefe's group is doing it. Isn't that something? Boy. He did it with Big Pharma. He did it with this. Where? Is anybody at ABC, CBS, NBC, the Wall Street Journal, Washington Times? Did they do an expose on Pfizer's garbage during COVID? No.
Why does Rachel Maddow never do one of these
things? Isn't it funny? She never does one of these things. Right? Why doesn't Rachel Maddow ever do an undercover thing
Chris
to
Hayes.
Expose the people? Because they own that goddamn company too. They all make this money. Okay. All right. This is why MSNBC and CNN and Fox News are there, to manufacture consent for these guys. These guys are the puppet masters. They pull the strings. We should do a thing about how all the money that they're worth. They're worth. BlackRock is worth more money than countries. So they have unbelievable power.